So, Nigel Farage, you've had quite an extraordinary few months, some by-election successes, but way ahead in many of the polls. But now heading down in the polls, isn't Ukip just a flash in the pan?
Well, there were three opinion polls out Sunday week back. One put us on 18%, one put us on 19%, and one put us on 20%, the highest we've ever been. And then there was an ICM poll, done in conjunction with your newspaper, with a sample of just 500 people, that put Ukip on 7%, which allowed everybody to say the bubble's burst and Ukip's collapsing. I would remind people that ICM have always been the worst predictor of Ukip.
But ICM may not look great, but some of the polls, you seem to be heading in a downward direction rather than an upward direction. But doesn't this show the fundamental problem for Ukip is that you're the none of the above party, and actually you want to be the this is what Ukip is
Well,
about
in terms
party.
of the way the polls are conducted, you're quite right. When YouGov poll, they don't even include Ukip in the list of runners and riders. So how would you vote if there was a general election tomorrow? Lib, Lab, Con, others. So to even register Ukip, you've got to go through a two-stage process. Even with that methodology, Ukip is steadily on 12 to 13%, and that's a general election question. Some of the other polls that prompt us, as I say, have got us up near 20, and even if Ukip does soften a bit in the polls over the summer, that would hardly be a surprise. We are, after all, a campaigning party. And we're in a bit of a lull at the moment.
And if you do well in the European elections next year, presumably you then want to continue to do well in the general election. But if you're going to do that, you've got to be talking about more than immigration in Europe. You've got to talk about schools. You've got to talk about hospitals. And you've got to have a leader who's actually read the manifesto.
Yeah, I mean, poor old Malcolm Pearson had a bit of a problem last time. It was like a Not With 9 O'Clock News sketch, wasn't it, really? You know, John Sapel asked him the question. He said, gosh, you've got me there, old boy. That won't be happening again. We got that wrong. You know, I mean, our manifesto last time was nearly 500 pages long. It was a Horlicks. That is not going to happen. I think that UKIP's established itself in terms of education. I think we've established ourselves in many people's minds in terms of energy policy going forward. Immigration, clearly. Europe, clearly. I think the next big challenge for UKIP is to get across some of our economic ideas, and in particular, what we'd like to do to help Britain's 4.5 million small businesses. They are challenges for UKIP. We have been broadening over the course of the last few years. We're not there yet.
But will they be your ideas? What about this idea that you could sort of buy policies off the shelf? I mean, that's from the Institute of Economic Affairs.
Well, why not? Why not? No, I mean, listen, you know, if somebody else out there has produced brilliant research, has got a lot more money to do this stuff, then when you ask me a question about our economic policy, I say, well, yeah, Nick, actually that is our policy, but look who else agrees with it. I haven't got a problem with that.
But isn't the problem with the Morrison's supermarket shelf approach to policy making is that you don't believe it if you're just sort of buying it from
well, no. Listen, you know, it would have to conform to everything we believe. It would have to be innovative and fresh, and we may adapt it slightly. But the idea that there are other people outside the policy wonks that work in, you know, big party offices, people with real experience of business and the world, no. We should do that. You know, I'll make this one prediction. I think that what comes from Romania and Bulgaria has the potential next year and the year after to fundamentally change the face of British politics.
But isn't that quite an inflammatory thing? Because obviously a lot of people came from Poland, but that's because this country has historic links with Poland. We don't have historic links with Romania and Bulgaria, so the numbers are going to be absolutely nothing like that.
Well, we've heard all that before, haven't we? I mean, I remember back in 2004 that David Blunkett, who was the current Home Secretary then, his line was up to 13,000 a year. The recent figures show 4 million people have come from Eastern Europe. 4 million. I mean, we're a country that likes to think of ourselves as being liberal, open, tolerant. We pride ourselves on being good at accepting foreign cultures here into Britain. And we did it after the war for nearly 60 years on the basis that 30 to 50,000 people a year came to Britain. It is now over 500,000 a year. We're talking about something completely different. And a lot of people out there are saying enough is enough.
OK, so Nigel Farage, you have a pretty grand project there to sort of end the entire European Union, but there's a more difficult parochial challenge, which is how, if you've got those big ambitions in Europe, you can make your party relevant and successful here for the general election.
We have not just to win the European elections next year. You know, the clever thing is there are over 5,000 council seats up for grabs on the same day as the European elections. What UKIP needs to do is to win significant numbers of seats at local government level, and then to follow the model that Paddy Ashdown set for the Lib Dems, which was, if you've got a cluster of councillors that have won under first past the post in a parliamentary constituency, then the voters there say, this isn't a wasted vote, these guys have got a chance. We've got a long way to go, but my goodness me, in this year we've made some real progress.
And no campaigning in aeroplanes.
No more stunts, no more aeroplanes, no more stupidity. I'm going to be older and wiser.